All right. Hello, welcome back to the Kickback Lounge podcast. My name's Drew Young, and I'm here with my co-host today, Kenny Brown.
What up?
And we got a very special guest today, someone we've known for a long time, someone we went to school with, but now we see him doing a lot of stuff in the creative field. We got David High in the building.
Hey.
What's up, bro?
Thank
you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so first podcast ever, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're actually the first guest we had in this studio. We were telling you a bit before, so this testing the waters to see how it goes. But so the reason we actually we got the idea to do this podcast. I've followed you on Instagram obviously for a while, seen your creative stuff, like video work, and it's like super fucking clean. I think you started with like doing car like videos and stuff. Tell me how you got started with the video.
Yeah, so initially I was using my iPhone 11. Like I think it was like right after the pandemic was already over.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like a bunch of car meets at Kirkwood. It was like every Friday afternoon, and it was like during the summer.
Oh yeah, Sonic Drive-In.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like really into it. Just like I guess my main influence was like I was watching a lot of car content, like Fast and Furious, Need for Speed, and all that. So
What's the best Fast and Furious movie?
Man, that's kind of hard to say, but I'd say the first one, in my opinion. That kind of sparked my interest on the franchise anyway.
This is a good jumping off point for sure.
Definitely. And all those new characters, like I was already intrigued by it. So, but yeah, back in the summer, like I said, I was using my iPhone 11. I still have this iPhone to this day. I'm still using it, especially back in like the day that I was using my for car content. But yeah, that's like how I started. Just mainly my main interest in just hobbies and cars, and I just want to do something nice for my my Instagram.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to somebody that's like thinks, oh, I need this equipment, I need that equipment to like start doing video? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would definitely say that it's not the equipment that makes you better, but it all comes down to the basic fundamentals, like especially like the editing skills you have. You can have the best camera in the world, but it all comes down to the person behind that camera. So like the best content creator can mainly just start from a basic iPhone 11 or 12 or 13 or etc. But it all comes down to like the basic fundamentals, like I said, camera movements, editing. It's all in the vision, not the equipment. But at the end of the day, the equipment makes it a lot better because it's it's more premium. But it all comes down to the user for real.
All right, so you got into I don't know exactly when you got into doing the video stuff, but what was like your first creative outlet, would you say?
My creative outlet, like my first video?
Well, just like in general, it could be like doing art, drawing maybe. That's what a lot of people end up saying. They say they always used to draw. Is there one that you started doing? Or was it the video? Like you started with the video?
Well, it was the video with my friend Hamza. It was like way back, like in the Kirkwood, like I said. And it was just also just main influence from like professional content creators from YouTube. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I might as well just play around with it. I mean, it's really no big deal, no risk or anything. Just having fun.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
Was there a first like video that you made that you were like, okay, like this kind of like scratches some sort of itch, and like this really does it for me, like just making videos and stuff?
Well, I first started like using the iMovie on my I think it was on my
back in the day.
Yeah, MacBook. I think it's on the MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
I still have that MacBook Pro today. I mean, it's all basic stuff. So, I mean, I was just finding some nice music on YouTube. NCS, non-copyrighted. Music. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just basically just using some of their music, and just incorporating some of my vision. So I was like, okay.
Oh man, you remember Movie Maker for Windows?
Bro.
I used to use that free music. It was so bad. It was terrible. I used to use like the same rap group every time. I got a quick question for you. So like whenever you talk about like, how you got into like creative, being like into like photos and stuff like that, would you say that like in today's world it's more accessible for a lot of people to like kind of get into creative arts? Like, especially when it comes to, like, using Adobe, using, like, Lightroom, using, like, these programs and kind of, like, being self-taught, like YouTube, and just, like, going for it.
Oh, I definitely say that, well, for one thing, this hobby is pretty pricey.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the cameras that we have. Like, I mean, you get what you pay for, but, like, not everyone has that budget. So I mean, it all comes down to the basic iPhone for real. So
I feel like most people, I mean, I started out, like you said, most people have iPhones. So, like, if you have the iPhone, you have an ability to make videos.
advantage, yeah.
And especially, like, nowadays, you have an ability to make clean videos if you really wanted to and, like, you were really dedicated towards it. But, yeah, I also, like, had to make the investment in a camera, and that's exactly what I see it as an investment because it's like, how do you justify spending, like, especially when you first start out, how do you justify spending like $1,000, $2,000, you know, on cameras, equipment, and stuff? But yeah, it's like you said, it's an investment. You know, what do you have to say about that? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, for me, like the stuff that I buy, I mean, I've been putting a lot of money into this hobby, and I have no regrets on doing it because, like, I know like some of the equipment that I buy, like they kind of hold their value over time.
Yeah.
Like some of the lenses I buy, like I already know for a fact they're gonna hold because of like it's still popular today and a lot of people use it, especially like YouTubers. So I'm pretty confident in what I'm putting my money in. So I have like not too much of a worry. Plus, I'm enjoying the hobby as well. So
yeah, see, when I say investment, I don't even think about it like, well, I think about it financially in the aspect of you could make money from it, but you're actually talking about like retaining value of the equipment and stuff. That's interesting because I didn't think about that. Is that something that you do, like trade equipment, or like when do you like upgrade equipment and stuff? Or
I mean, for this hobby, like photography and videography, like if you make connections with other people, like videographers and photographers, like they'll be more than happy to trade wherever they want, as long as it's like a good deal or reasonable or offer. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's all I can say right now. So
yeah. No, that's interesting because like I never thought about it. Usually, like I've had a lot of connections to where like people have equipment and they're like, hey, you could use it if you want, you know.
Yeah.
I tend to like not try to use other people's equipment if I don't have to, because it's like, I don't know, that's something on the come up, like the grind, like that's something you got to do when you're coming up. Like if somebody has something and you want to use it and you don't want to buy it, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I remember first starting out having to ask people like, hey, can I use your camera to do this? Can I use your camera? And that's like, I mean, you probably know, like the camera's like your baby, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like to trust someone with your kid, that's a big ask. But I don't know. That's why I say like it's also worth the investment. But yeah, going back to the investment type of stuff, like I see it as anything that you do, like you can justify spending money on stuff that like your passion. If you're truly gonna work hard towards it, then I think it's justified in a way, because if you feel like you're doing something in the moment that you want to do and it's gonna be positive for you, I don't see that as like making a mistake. But I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that? Like betting on yourself, essentially? Is that something you had to do?
I haven't really thought about that for real. I mean, all I know is for the fact that for the stuff that I buy and what I do to produce on like content, like so far I'm like, I already know that I'm like having fun. Most importantly, making connections. Connection is like the most valuable thing when it comes to doing these kinds of stuff. So I already know for the fact that I'm already on the uptrend, but of course there's gonna be ebbs and flows. But you know, at the end of the day, like the stuff that I buy, like I already know like the results from past experience. I'm already like growing over time, which is like for my social circle, which I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah, so that's something we talk about on this podcast is networking.
100%.
And that's something I've known for like a long time, how important networking is. But I mean, now I actually see the benefits because one thing I do is I'll film with like YouTubers or just like do YouTube videos and stuff with other content creators, and that's one thing about like St. Louis and this like the niche like community, YouTuber community
for sure.
They definitely like to work together, and high tide like raises all ships. Yeah, is the saying. So I think it's definitely important to like get your circle and make sure that like if it sounds kind of shallow to say, but like if you can make money with your circle, that's ideal for me. What is that like something that you look for when connections, or what do you look for when you're networking?
I mean, for me, like the way that I network is I go to the places that I have interest in. So if you like going to clubs, just if you want to make content in the clubs, just put yourself out there. Just naturally bring your camera in. Well, if they let you. But if they do let you, then just take an advantage. Don't ask them for anything. Just make cool content. Just tag their account. Just see if they make any any impressions.
Yeah.
Like kind of like what I did with STL Bucket List.
Yeah.
I didn't even force them. I didn't force them anything. I just like naturally tag them. Just had fun with my friends, and then they noticed I had like some talents, and then it just naturally came into place. Just enjoy the ride, have fun. Just tag the people that you think that you have like potential to making partners with, and that just naturally came. So I was pretty happy with that.
You mentioned being allowed to film. Have there been places that they were like, no camera, no?
Yeah. So actually, I went to Nashville last weekend.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of like sneak my camera in because they weren't allowed to bring any professional cameras because they had like paid photographers and videographers.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it was kind of whack.
Content.
Yeah, so it was kind of whack, but I was able to pull it in for like the first night of all the bars. You've gone to Nashville, right? Nashville, Tennessee.
I've been there once. Yes.
Okay, well Broadway's pretty nice. Like my favorite bar was probably like Whiskey Row.
It's pretty. I want to get down there so bad to go there.
That whole strip is pretty huge, and it's like popping off.
Yeah,
I mean, it's always been kind of popping, but now like people are like Nashville, honestly.
Yeah.
But how was that, the Nashville trip?
I'd probably say like a scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably say like a solid 9. That was my first time going. And I still have like a bunch of videos at home. I'm still trying to edit, so trying to make some good memories to let people see my vision.
Okay. And you mentioned like experiences and stuff like that. You did Bucket List. You did STL Bucket List. You did some stuff in Chicago. You did some stuff in Nashville.
Yeah.
Some stuff here in St. Louis. What was like your favorite experience of like 2022?
Ooh, 2022. That's a very good question. Well, I went to Kansas City.
Ooh.
I did enjoy that one a lot.
Ooh, did you go to a game?
Well, I was actually there with my friends, so I didn't know if there were any games during that time.
Gotcha.
I think it was like during the summer, so I don't think there were any sports games going on. But
camp.
It was pretty fun. The city was nice, especially in the night. The parks were big. The museum was pretty classy. I don't know if you've been to the museum. I don't know what it's called.
Up in KC?
Yeah.
Oh,
have you ever been to KC?
Or is it called Union Station? Or is it right?
Something like that. Yeah, it's like it is a nice fucking like museum or something like up there. But yeah, 100%, 100%. So that's like your favorite experience of like last year, like shooting and stuff.
Probably just like one of my favorite places to go. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, around what year did you say you got into filming and everything?
Just like from like the bare bones, or just like
taking it seriously. Yeah.
Well, I was using this after pandemic for 1 year.
So like 2020 around
So
there?
I'd probably say like 2020 or the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, and for someone, because that's what I thought, because that's when I seen like your video starting to go up on your channel and stuff, and I think you made a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a very short time to be as good as you are.
Yeah.
Because it takes people like a long time. Well, depending on how much investment and like work you really put into it.
Right.
But I mean, your videos, if people haven't seen, what's your Instagram real quick?
Oh, my main or my car page?
Like your car page, because that's where you post mainly the video stuff.
So for my main, I just post like lifestyle stuff. So like wherever I go, like traveling, I'm naturally just post reels or pictures. But if you guys want to like check out my car page, that's also in my main account bio. But for my main, it's just David underscore ha. So ha like HA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main.
But yeah, how much did you have to dedicate yourself to get this good this quickly?
Well, for me, I don't know. I mean, it just varied over time. But I felt like after when I was using my iPhone for about a year, it just came in naturally. Because, like, I mean, this camera's already automatically stabilized, so, like, the movement was already, like, easy. But then again, I was just trying to, like, mimic some of the movements from the creators that they've done on, like YouTube.
Film.
Yeah, kind of like film. So I just kind of, like, vision it and just, like, kind of copy and just, like, basically just puzzling everything together to what I thought would be, fabulous.
Interesting. So you have, you like to reverse engineer. Is that your kind of mindset? Because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like reverse engineering, just trying to like figure out what they're trying to do and how that worked. So it's just kind of like more of like a, what do you call it? Just like testing the waters, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's probably like another saying, but that's just like,
trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Trial and error.
Yeah, that's a big thing with doing anything creatively, I would say.
100%.
If you're actually trying to take it seriously and get good at it,
Yeah.
Trial and error is a big thing, especially like in this digital space. It's a lot of, I don't know if you learned a lot from like YouTube or anything, or just like you didn't know how to do something, look it up on YouTube. Is that something that you used, or what resources did you use to just learn?
Well, so for me, I'm mainly more of a visual learner. So YouTube was obviously my best friend. So I mean, then again, I was like more of like a car guy. So I just watched a lot of like car content creators or filmers, basically on how their movements work, and that's how I basically copied it.
Okay, so you weren't looking up like how to do this type of video. It was more like, okay, let me just mess around. What program?
Well, initially I was using was it iMovie, but right now, since I'm more comprehensive in my work and adding more edits into it, I'm using DaVinci Resolve Studio, which is a paid program. It's like I think it's like $300 one-time payment, pretty similar to Final Cut Pro 10. I was kind of contemplating on buying Adobe Premiere, but then again, you have to buy a subscription.
Yeah,
and I'm not about that subscription life, so I'm trying to save money as much as possible.
We used a little bit of that in the past too, and like in some of our work, like that's actually a really, really good like jumping off base. You remember like Sony Vegas back in the day?
No.
No, you didn't use Sony Vegas, dude. No. Sony Vegas was so like 2010s, I would say.
Okay.
Sony Vegas Pro and Sony Vegas, like you would pirate that and just, I mean. No.
Allegedly.
For real, I'm putting y'all on game. Like, that was the whole thing, bro. U-turn, all that kind of stuff. Like, that was. See, the thing is with me and Drew, like, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we've been making content off and on since we were like 10,
no way,
12, 11, 13.
Yeah, where did you start?
I mean, I would say I started making like my Beyblade videos and fucking like No, I know it's lame. Transformer videos in my aunt's house when I was in like fucking 6th grade, 5th grade.
Hey, Beyblade's cool though.
Well, I mean, like that's where we jumped off. That's where we started off. Using it was like Sony Vegas, a camera, like an iPhone, and just filming. But yeah, like so. What would you say, like, with St. Louis specifically and like its content? Would you say that it has become less of like a sports city and more of a content creator driven city, especially like with the youth, like our age, like the 20-somethings, like?
Well, based on like what I'm seeing, I feel like the content creators in St. Louis are not being exposed well enough.
Right.
And that's why STL Bucket List is trying their best to bring out like the younger generation out into the public space to let them know like what they're worth. But yeah, I feel like St. Louis has a lot of potential, but it just has to be discovered soon.
Yeah, I think that's something that's definitely on the rise. I mean, we know in the city it's like there's a lot of crime and like people don't like to go downtown, but it seems like something with, I don't know if it's danger and art. There's something there. Like, I mean, a lot of beauty will come from struggle, I would say.
Yeah.
And that might be like where stuff kind of sparks. If you go, I mean, graffiti, think about that. Like graffiti, that's a big thing that's like, in high crime areas, you see a lot of graffiti, and I mean it's almost a way for people to express themselves in a way. Sometimes I mean it's like gang shit, but but like I mean just like people need that creative outlet, and in times of like struggle, I think you see that come out a bit. But it's also hard for like in St. Louis, like the downtown area is like. That's where an artist would want to be, but I mean, there's a lot of crime. Ideally, like if you think about like New York, like big cities, you tend to see more crime, but you also tend to see more art, I would say.
100%, 100%. And like going back to your equipment, like for 1 second, like as far as your camera, I know we've talked about like your setup, but like as far as your rig and like shooting in cities and stuff like that, like what do you what camera do you prefer? And like what camera, I know you started off with your iPhone, but like what camera do you prefer now, like hardware wise?
Well,
and then what would you want to get?
Well, I definitely recommend not getting a Nikon.
Why is that?
Because well, some of my friends already
Shots fired.
yeah.
I don't like them either. So
Yeah, I've like from what I've heard, like their autofocusing is not that superior compared to Canon's or Sony. And one of my friends, his name, you guys know Sebastiano Furco?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's been using Nikon quite a bit, but he's deciding to switch to Sony primarily because like Sony's very good at low light situations, and I have that too. And it's kind of more like a mainstream type of generation camera because a lot of YouTubers are using it. Gym influencers using it too.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Canon. Canon's like it's kind of like a legendary brand, but I feel like Sony's like the new wave.
Whereas like would you say like Canon's like the Ford, and then you would say like Sony's probably like more the Ferrari, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
I would say so too, because like especially when you look at like you said cameras nowadays, like it seems like what do they call them, DMR cameras.
Oh, that part I don't
or
know.
DSLRs. I don't know. I forgot what they're called.
Oh, DSLRs and mirrorless cameras.
Yeah, where they like camcord and shoot and stuff like that. Like those cameras are so damn popular, and they were way more popular in 2010s. But like, it seems people are starting to move towards like more film.
Yeah,
and vintage.
Yeah, I'd probably say, vintage is nice too. Like, gives more character to the video. But if you want something like super crispy and sharp, and something more compatible and easy to carry around, then I'd definitely go for a mirrorless camera.
100%.
That's what that is right there.
Cool. Like, you can definitely shoot 4K on mirrorless cameras easily. DSLR is known for just shooting photos.
Right.
Yeah. So when you bring up the different types of cameras and what you like, is that specifically for pictures?
Which one, mirrorless or DSLR?
Like the Nikon, Canon.
Oh, okay. Well, Canon's pretty good too. Like they're you can basically shoot like fast frame rates if you're trying to like capture something super fast.
Right.
But if you want something that's ideal for like all like weather situations, like harsh lighting, like really sunny day or really like dark places, then I'd definitely prefer Sony. Plus, not only that, like for Sony users, you get a lot of like third brand party lenses like Sigma, Tamron, or of course the primary one, Sony. But that's like probably like the biggest reason why I went for Sony, because you get so many options for lenses.
Yeah.
And then for Canon's, like you only get like limited amount, and plus they're like pretty expensive. So
yeah, I mean I agree completely. Like filming, just going to different shoots, especially like I seen you just did a one with like boxing or something, right? Or like wrestling, was that?
Oh yeah, wrestling. Oh, I just posted that with my friend today. He's actually in Atlanta right now. He just went back. I think it's his first match for tomorrow in wrestling. His name is what's his name? Matt Jones. Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Big heart, supportive around everyone. He wants everybody to win. Of course, he wants to win too, but he cares just about everyone else just as much as he cares about himself. So hardworking as well.
Yeah, I mean I can relate to that. I've done ton of filming with Max.
Yeah, trainers and fighters too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, trainers, fighters, and that like getting a taste of like what actually goes on behind the scenes, because a lot of times people will see just the glory side of things, the actual fight. They won't see like the actual what goes in, the work people put in,
or the losses. Yeah, they just see like one side of it.
Yeah, they don't get to see like the camaraderie behind the scenes. So I'm sure whenever you were filming, you got to see a lot of that. But also in those type of situations, a lot of like low light situations, a lot of like just different things, type of lightings you have to deal with in the gyms and stuff. So it's definitely nice to have a Sony where you can film in low light, and then just like the focus options. That's something like I was telling you before the podcast. Like I'm not a huge like. I like to film stuff, but I haven't like really had time to just dive into different aspects of like actually learning my camera. That's something I'm getting into now. Like the other day, yesterday when I was filming with some YouTubers, I kind of got in, like I felt compelled to like actually learn like different aspects from the camera. But yeah. So how is that for you being in the gyms and stuff like?
Oh, just like what? Just like gym content or what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's see. Well, I'd say like I think like naturally came when I started doing gym content, mainly because I was just bring my camera out and about and just like in public places.
Yeah.
Like I had some of my friends, like since I'm a gym rat and they knew that I had a camera, they like kind of reached out to me like, hey, how much would you charge XYZ if we did like a video for like just for like the first 1 month or two. I actually did like a 12-week series with my friend Camden Hesse.
I remember seeing those. Those were clean, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was last summer. That was probably my biggest project with him yet. I mean, we're pretty close friends, so like everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, we had like a wonderful journey. I saw him like starting from like being like kind of like a fluffy guy all the way down to being like down to like 4% body fat. It was an absolute story. And he got like I think like first place in like a certain category, and then got second place in overall.
Was he doing like bodybuilding or lifting type of stuff?
He was competing in natural and bodybuilding. So his next competition is I think it's in this summer, in Florida.
That's
so
dope.
yeah, I would just have to wait and see if he actually reaches out to me. But other than that, dude, we had a wonderful journey.
Is Florida like a really big bodybuilding place?
Not that I know of, but okay. I'm assuming they probably have a massive fitness industry, especially down in Houston.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, you're on the beach. So.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about like you love like working in the gym and stuff like that, what would you say like your favorite group of like our individual group of people would be to film and like to work around? I know you said you like working in the gym, but like, you know, outside of the gym, like what would you say?
So like what?
So like people who, you know, are like an athlete in the gym, or if there's like a person who's doing like
car content.
Yeah, car content. Like what would you say is like your niche, and like what's your favorite? Would you say just filming like outside of the gym, or like doing other stuff? Like what?
Okay. Well, I'm more of like a car guy, so that's like my primary category. But
okay. I
mean, since I'm a gym rat, I also do watch gym content too, like gym influencers in Alpha Land. Especially like C-Bum, like his videographer. So I kind of get an idea of what they're trying to do and like what the vibe they try to pull off, especially like the photos I see on Instagram, because my algorithm is more like gym and cars.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of get the vision. So, yeah, my cars is my primary categories. That's my specialty. And then gym and then lifestyle.
Okay. So one thing, I just seen this in a video the other day for creatives, because I follow I think it's filmmakers on Instagram. I don't know if you ever seen their stuff, but just post like a bunch of like film content, just different things that photographers, videographers have to deal with. But one thing they were talking about was as a photographer, videographer, there's a couple of things, like 3 main aspects you have to deal with. It's the creative side, which it's like how you film, just your vision, like actually using your equipment. The marketing side, which could be like networking and just getting yourself out there, learning social media. That's like the main thing nowadays. And then actually sales, because I mean, you just talked about like when you were doing gym content, people would ask you like, oh, how much would you charge? Do this. And like as somebody that also like will make money off doing film sometimes, it's like that's an interesting thing when you first start out, because you don't know like how much do I charge like for this, or how much is the client willing to pay. How do you balance those 3, and how do you figure out how much you want to charge for stuff?
Well, since it's just a hobby and I'm still focusing on school, I'm not really too concerned about my own pricing. I know like everyone has their own pricing, mainly due to demographic experience and or like certain preference if it's like their way of living. But for me, I don't really have like a certain price right now. I mean, I'm still making my own portfolio. It's like 75% done, but like I really don't have any concern with like a pricing on hand at the moment. But maybe later down the road, but I just don't have like a definite pricing of my own. Yeah.
Well, I could tell you now that based off your quality and the work you put in, from what I see, you could definitely make a living off it, whether you think that or not. But, I mean, I see your quality, and I know I kind of, like, have a little bit of knowledge in the industry, like working with different people, talking to different creatives. Like, you could definitely, like, make a living. Like, I'm saying you specifically, and, yeah, you guys listening, too, if that's, like, your field, if you work hard enough and you're talented, and you just make the connections and stuff. But yeah, you specifically, you could definitely make a living off that, because, I mean, I could see how quickly you've learned the field and stuff, and how good your stuff is. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely definitely think you could do it for sure. So is that a like I said, how do you balance all those things with like just marketing? Like, is that something you had to learn outside of the field? Like, what's your most what would you say your best field is? The creative side, the marketing side, or the sales side? What would you say is your best?
So, I'd say like back in like 1.5 years ago, my friend Alvin Voitka, he recommended me to watch Gary Vee.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing that you can do is just keep making content. Content is probably like the most valuable thing in the world.
Content.
Yes,
Gary
sir.
Vee, Gary. Content.
Yeah, you just gotta keep mass producing content.
Yeah.
You don't ask anyone for anything. You don't force anything. You basically show off your work, and that's basically your basically your resume. And once people see your value, they ask you, hey, how much is XYZ for this session for tomorrow, etc. I usually don't go up to people saying, like, being more like a sales type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a creative type of person, and that basically just it's kind of like saying, like, actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Show what you have, and then people will value and they'll respect you, and that's how like kind of like networking works. So that's how I do it. It's all about the creative side of things and mass producing content.
Okay. I'll give you a little pushback on that. Just from people I know, not like myself specifically, but like people I know, specifically Alex O'Toole, he does V's Creative, because I know he like makes a living from doing content and like filming, videography, photography stuff, and like he has his own business. Content's good, and I like Gary Vee too.
Yeah.
I do like Gary Vee. I think he puts out a lot of like good, content. Puts out a lot of good content, and it has a lot of wise words to say, and has the backing to actually be like, okay, I did this.
Right.
But I do think it is important to like if that's what you want to do, like if you want to take it further than just a hobby, definitely getting yourself getting your marketing and sales right. You don't necessarily have to go up to people and be like, this is how much I charge. But for example, like when I talked to Alex one time, like you see the opportunity. Obviously, you do your content, make your portfolio, learn the creative side. But if you see an opportunity and you want to go and make money from it, you can do that. Like that, I think that's fine. So, like for example, he's like, I see your podcast. Do you guys want help doing the video stuff? And like, then we talk a little bit, and then one thing in sales, like you don't necessarily bring out the price first.
Yeah.
So we talk a little bit, and then he'll say like how much he charges. So that's like, if you are somebody that wants to literally make money, make a living off this, that's part of the game, business. That's just my philosophy on it. But,
yeah, I would say that's 100% true, especially like in today's age with business, like in the modern era of networking, like you definitely do have to be more open with people. And I feel like that came off the pandemic too. We all got like so in our bubbles and stuff like that. It's honestly, you have to kind of go out and say like, hey, well, let's talk about it first. Let's kind of assess it before going into the business side. So yeah, 100%, dude. I would say that's been one of the things that like boosted us up last year was just like being able to invite these people on as people first, and then we get to the business, so.
Because you could, like, I do understand that philosophy of like doing content, getting the best at it, and then naturally it will come.
Right.
There's also an aspect of maybe it might not,
That too.
Like maybe you're putting in all this work and it might not happen. But if you can push, or if you can like put yourself in position, that's something I see across like different industries. Like, for example, one of the podcasts we have coming up is like a horror movies podcast. We had these guys on the radio just randomly. I didn't even know they were coming in, but they do like a ton of videography work. They're like ghost hunters, and they do a bunch of like documentaries for like horror stuff. But one thing I did is like put myself out there, and I was like, hey, would you guys be interested? I do my own podcast. That's not necessarily like business, but that's like a networking thing where you have to push. You kind of have to like put yourself out there and like take opportunities to be like, hey, would you guys like to do this thing? And you can do the same thing for sales. But yeah, do you have anything to say about like what I said.
Which is like putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Just networking.
What do you think about that?
Well, I guess I can kind of correlate to Cars and Coffee STL.
Hey.
You been there?
No, but I've heard of those communities, and like that's really big in LA, Chicago, and I didn't know it even existed in St. Louis. To be honest with you, I knew that there was meets and stuff, but that's dope that we have that.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even know we had a car community here until like after the pandemic.
Man. Oh, really?
Yeah, I was missing out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of to be honest with you, it's kind of underground, but it's whew.
It is definitely
It's
underground,
nice.
I would say. Cause like, but it's very niche. Like I've seen the car shows at like Sonic and stuff, and now they used to do them at Crestwood Mall. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like again, going back to like Cars and Coffee, like they actually have like an organized like group on Instagram and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just bring my gear there, just naturally just getting cool content for cars, and then it just naturally came to me like, hey, like you take good photos, and then they assume I take good photos because I have like nice gear. So
you do take good photos. I think it's further than the gear. Like you got to give yourself.
I was
some
gonna
credit
say
there.
you do actually have
like,
a really good eye, man.
People could have the nice gear, but like if they're not putting in the work or like you do have a talent for it.
Yeah.
Like that's something you should definitely recognize.
But I feel like it kind of comes with like a first impression because like I just feel like, I mean, they probably don't know you based on experience, but once they see you like carrying like a big massive rig with a camera, then they probably think you're the real deal.
Right.
Which I mean, and then again, it's kind of like first impression, but then again, it's kind of like, I don't know if that's the right term, but like shallow. Because like a professional can carry an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy S22, but they probably won't even know that they're an actual videographer. So it all comes down to like the gear and what they see, and they just come up to you.
Right.
True. It's definitely like I just seen like filmmakers talked about that, like different, like you could have this like big rig like you're saying with all attachments and everything, but like you could also do it through your camera, you know, if you really get down to the nitty gritty and like learn the aspects. So that's interesting. But yeah, that's kind of a form of like putting yourself out there, just showing up.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've been there with Cars and Coffees like since the pandemic, like I said. So it's been like what, a solid 2 years or maybe 1.5 years. Yeah. I mean, I actually love the car community there. Like they have a bunch of exotics. They had like 2 Bugattis last summer.
Damn.
At Holman
What
Motor
color?
Cars. It's like
What color?
they had like a silver black colorway.
Yeah.
And then the other one was like, I think it was like dark blue, ocean blue or something like that. But it was pretty dope.
That's what's up, man. I got 2 questions for you since you say you're in the car community.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3 actually, but the first 2, they'll be quick. Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the new GTR? The unveiling of it. Did you see that?
I need to take a look at that first.
Dude, they didn't even change it. All right. Second question. Muscle cars. Did you see all the new muscle car generation like lines, like the Ford Mustang, the Challenger? Yeah.
Oh, the Challenger, dude. That
Dude,
makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Dude, it's disgusting. It's like it's got digital exhaust. Okay. All right. Third question. Last question. So when it comes to like your angles and like your videos and stuff like that specifically, where do you pull your inspiration? Like, do you like directors and like filmmakers and stuff, or is it just kind of like you just see something and you're like, damn, that's dope angle? Because I know for me and him, like we did some film classes and stuff, so they talk about angles and how like lighting, like over the shoulder, and, you know, you have certain things that tell a story. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I mean, for my favorite angle, it has to be like the low angle when you're looking up.
Oh yeah.
That basically gives like the car like more like a powerful character or subject in the video. But I mean, for handheld, that's what I usually do. But since I have a gimbal, it's more dynamic.
Right.
You know, like speed ramping, doing like a bunch of like awkward angles here and there. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm more of a visual learner. But there's one guy on Instagram that I've been following for quite a while. He does a lot of gimbal work in Germany. Plus, I've been doing a lot of like Autobahn motorsports, so I kind of like look at his stuff and just trying to like kind of copy what he does.
Yeah, that's interesting. Does the car, like doing the car content, how does that translate to doing other content? Like, do you take anything from that?
I mean, for me, like it's kind of like whole different worlds for me. Cars is more like being like creating your own bubble, because like with cars, like on Instagram, like when you see reels, it's more of like a whole new. It's like magic. There's a lot of editing, but then with like my lifestyle videos, it's more like kind of like snappy, but nothing like too crazy. Like it's not like what trippy or anything, but it's more like, I don't know,
abstract kind of.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
something like more classy, nothing too crazy compared to like car editing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because it's like with car content on, especially on like Instagram. I don't have TikTok, but like on Instagram, it's like just make it look super cool. Like probably some of those cars would not make it like 10 miles, you know?
Yeah.
But like it looks cool on Instagram though, you know?
Yeah.
Like it looks dope, and like people flex off like different mods and everything, and like you get a nice song to go with, you know,
some visuals.
the dope visuals to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting. But yeah, like you said, with like the cars, that's definitely a cinematography aspect you see in film a lot. If you're filming from like down lower, making something look powerful, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you have coming up creatively?
Creatively, I mean, I don't have anything significant going on, but I'd probably say for car content wise, I'm heading down to Branson with like 4 or 5 car content creators.
That's dope.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the industry called Slammed Enough.
No.
No. Well, it's more of like a stance car show or competition. So it's like more exotic / project cars / lowered cars.
Right.
It's pretty trippy, like
camber, crazy camber.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. So that'll be in May. So that's probably something big for this year. But I don't know anything else on the top of my head.
Sure.
Dope, bro.
Where can they find your content? I want you to shout out like all your socials or.
Okay. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you can see it, but I guess I'll spell it out. I guess, but
I'll put it in the video.
Okay. So my car Instagram hold is see if I remember this. D. Automotive, and I think that's. I would have to double check, but it's D. Automotive.
So,
yeah.
We'll see it.
Yeah, but that's my car handle, and then my main account. I already told you way back, but I might as well just say it again. But it's David ____ Ha. So that's my main.
That's what's up, bro.
Yep.
Well, any final questions for David?
No, man. I think you answered pretty much everything we wanted to know. Like I think the main question we ask is at the end of every show with our St. Louis creatives is like, what's your earliest memory of St. Louis, and like what's your favorite memory of St. Louis before we get out of here?
Favorite memory in St. Louis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been here for 22 years. Or no, 23 actually.
23.
Favorite memory?
Yeah, man. It could be as early as 5 if you're 5 years old.
If I can remember what's happened at 5. Jeez. Favorite memory?
Yeah. I'll tell you mine.
Oh, I got one.
Okay.
Back in 2019, Blues won the NHL Cup.
Okay.
Stanley Cup. Yeah, that was my favorite one.
All right.
Mine was City Museum for sure.
City Museum.
Oh yes, first time seeing that art and like that style and
Yeah.
that ruggedness, like that was wonderful, man.
Yeah, right on, bro.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. We appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck. Definitely start making some good money off. Get the business right, you know. But yeah, it was good to have you on, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, bro. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment. Follow David on his socials, which we'll shout out. Follow the podcast.
Yes, sir.
And comment anything you guys think about the pod. Are you a creative? Do you deal with cameras? What's your philosophy on the creative world? But yeah, thanks for listening to the podcast. We out.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey.